So I was minding my own business. I was playing some video games, and then my man SFC times TMB tagged me on Twitter saying, at Microphone NFL, the work here is never done. And then when I took a look at what he was tagging me in, it's the fact that the New York Giants are trying to trade their 2021 first round pick, Kadarius Toney. So without a doubt, we had to break this down for you guys. So before we get to the content, just a reminder, man, we're giving away $250 to 2 of my followers on Twitter. All you have to do is follow me on Twitter and maybe turn on my notifications if you happen to like me extra. Now that we get all that out of the way, break. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Make sure you drop a like because this is our second upload of the day, back-to-back double upload days, and we're back again here today. So for those of you guys that don't know who Kadarius Toney is, last year everybody and their mother knew that the New York Giants were targeting a wide receiver in the NFL draft. And it was actually pretty comical what ended up happening to them. Originally, it seemed like the New York Giants would be in a good situation to potentially draft Devontae Smith. And then some hoery happened between the NFC East. You see, at the 10th pick, Devontae Smith was still available. The Dallas Cowboys had that pick, and they didn't need a wide receiver. They had Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb at the time. But unfortunately, the Dallas Cowboys target, Patrick Surtain II, was officially off the board. So what did they end up doing? They traded that pick to the Philadelphia Eagles, who traded up to the 10th overall spot, which would literally leapfrog the New York Giants, and ended up selecting Devontae Smith. The Dallas Cowboys would trade up to number 12 and select Micah Parsons, and after Devontae Smith, when the New York Giants saw that the Philadelphia Eagles drafted Devontae Smith, they decided to trade back with the Chicago Bears, which is kind of unfortunate because Rashawn Slater was still available to be drafted. Ultimately, the New York Giants would trade all the way back to the 20th overall spot and draft Kadarius Toney, one of the speediest wide receivers in the NFL draft, which was their consolation prize. But ultimately, coming into last season, I had a lot of faith in the New York Giants wide receiver core. I mean, they went ahead and broke the bank on signing Kenny Golladay, which is a player that I was always a big fan of. But what happened next would be an absolute shocker to everyone. The New York Giants would have an absolutely horrific season underneath Joe Judge's final season. Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney, the first round pick for the New York Giants and the highest paid wide receiver from last year's free agency period, wouldn't even score a single touchdown. However, Kadarius Toney did look very promising whenever he did take the field. Although he didn't really produce as such, only putting up 420 receiving yards for 10.8 yards per reception, it's still something that you could build off of, especially considering the fact that that was his age 22 season. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he's going to be building off of anything anymore, because the New York Giants are officially trying to trade him. Now, this is coming to us from an individual that I personally am not familiar with, Pat Leonard, who is a NFL columnist and a Giants beat writer. If a beat writer comes out and says that a player that he beat writes for is in trade talks, then that's something that you could trust, even though you may have never heard of him before. But ultimately, this rumor is probably going to get shut down, whether it's true or not. So let's break it down. The New York Giants are seeking a trade for 2021 first round pick Kadarius Toney. Now, why is this happening currently? A few days ago, the New York Giants had voluntary workouts and Kadarius Toney was nowhere to be found. Now, typically, whenever a new head coach and a new general manager, they're a little bit trigger happy in cleaning up the team. I mean, they will happily cut a player that is really talented just to make an example out of them, mainly because they're not as emotionally invested in that player because they didn't select that player, they didn't acquire that player, and they were hired for a reason, because the team stinks. This is a huge reason why you saw players like Saquon Barkley in trade rumors earlier in the offseason, because the New York Giants were evaluating as many options as they possibly could to improve their roster, and their general manager wasn't nearly as emotionally invested in Saquon Barkley as David Gettleman, who spent a number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft to draft Saquon Barkley. Now, Kadarius Toney missed voluntary workouts after an up and down rookie season, and according to this article, he has not set foot in the team facility during new head coach Brian Daboll's introductory phase. Daboll said that no, KT's not here today. We've had good attendance. I've had talks with some of the guys that haven't been here, but most everybody's been here, whether they were here the first week or the second week. James Bradbury was also not there, but that's also because he's been in trade rumors all off season long. And according to this article, it says that there are no exterior circumstances with Toney. He is coming off of a turbulent rookie season, during which he was sidelined by a variety of physical ailments and 2 separate positive COVID-19 tests that limited him to just 10 games. He showed flashes of the elusive talent the previous Giants front office saw in him as the number 20 pick in the 2021 NFL draft, but he was not at all consistent. He finished his first NFL season with 420 yards and 39 reception and a disappointing per catch average of 10.8 yards. He did not have a single touchdown. Now, this is fairly significant because, again, we have a brand new head coaching regime. You want to do your best to make a good first impression because maybe that coach will involve you more in future game plans. But Brian Daboll said, like I said, this is a voluntary camp. The guys that are here, we're going to work with. The guys that aren't, they're going to miss out on some things, but it's voluntary for a reason. That's the nature of the rules. I've had some good talks with KT. I've had some good talks with some of the other guys. I'm encouraged by where we are in terms of our preparation and what we've been doing, and we're just going to keep moving in the right direction. Now, the article also mentions that there's a new playbook to learn, and Brian Daboll has not made that playbook available to use virtually. So that's the only conceivable reason I can come up with as to why the New York Giants might be trying to trade Kadarius Toney. But this is even more concerning, primarily because it's never a good sign to trade a former first-round pick 1 year after you drafted him, primarily because you are not going to be able to get a good return on your investment. I don't even think you could get yourself a 4th-round pick for Kadarius Toney currently. Maybe you will, and if you do, you're really lucky. It's nothing against Toney, it's just at this point, he's perceived as damaged goods, and at the same time, he hasn't done enough on a NFL field to convince teams that he is worth higher than that. So I'm really wondering what was the straw that broke the camel's back. Ultimately, you just think of what could have been, primarily because of what the New York Giants could have had instead of Kadarius Toney. It's not necessarily something that New York Giants fans want to hear. Now, teams that could potentially be in on Kadarius Toney would be like the Kansas City Chiefs, who are looking to replace Tyreek Hill's production, the Green Bay Packers, because they're still trying to find additional weapons for Aaron Rodgers to try to fill the void that Devontae Adams left, although I don't think Kadarius Toney would be able to do that. I feel like it's worth at least taking a flyer on him just because of his talent alone. Then there's the New York Jets, who have been in on literally every single wide receiver, and Kadarius Toney won't have to relocate that far. And of course, the New England Patriots. So let me know in the comment section down below, especially if you're a New York Giants fan, how do you feel about this news? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.